Good morning, Minister Philippe
Good morning.
Let the readers and the listeners know who you are, your current position, and what brings you to Nigeria.
I'm currently the minister in the federal government of Belgium, responsible for the digital agenda, telecommunications and postal services. And I'm leading a delegation of about 40 Belgian entrepreneurs and NGOs who came to Nigeria to explore, to discover, but also to see where there might be possible partnerships. And it's a very diverse bunch of people. There are some people in fintech, there are some people in agriculture, there are some NGOs in education, people who work with blockchain technology. So it's quite diverse, and we're really discovering the ecosystem of startups and tech companies here in Nigeria.
What's from your few days or few hours you spent here? What are the unique peculiarities you've seen with the Nigerian tech space?
What I've seen is that they're really good at identifying the problem and then being very creative in finding solutions. And this requires, first of all, very knowledgeable and skilled people, and which is absolutely present here. But it's coupled also with a high level of ambition, and that is something that I think is very interesting, because you need a high level of ambition in a digital economy to be able to scale fast, to move fast, to be flexible, and to provide your solutions not only here in Nigeria or the African continent, but basically also globally. And I think the combination of having very skillful people, but also having the people in an ecosystem and being very ambitious and optimistic, that is really the key to success.
What are the differences between what you noticed there in Nigeria and what obtains back home in Belgium?
Well, I think the Belgian tech scene is more mature. It is developed in such a way that we try to find solutions often for particular European problems. And what I've seen here is that the focus on really the fundamental problems in a society is much higher here in Nigeria. I think on the creativity level, it's a match. It's about even. I think that we have expertise and good people on both sides, but also the level of ambition, and that is something that I sometimes lack in Europe. That people think, okay, if we go into one or two countries, we're already fine. No, it's really about quick scaling. It's about a high level of ambition and this kind of optimism that you have. And here in Nigeria, saying yes, we can do it and let's do it. That is something that I find very attractive here in Nigeria.
Back to a comment you just made. Why did you say the push is not where you are from? The push for fintech companies is not as it is where you are from. Why do you think that is so?
But I think that because of, for example, the financial sector is much more established in Europe. The solutions that are being provided are different than here. I mean, what you see here, for example, is that you jumped everything that is cable. You directly has gone into mobile payments and things like that. On the other side, you have sometimes a problem with the basic infrastructure. The basic infrastructure in Belgium is much more broad. So in that respect, it's easier to roll out your products in Europe, for example, because the basic infrastructure is better. On the other hand, what you have here, of course, that you have to find solutions which also take into consideration sometimes these difficult situations. So it leads to more creativity. So I think it's two different spaces, but the two different spaces can learn from each other, because if the connection is made, if the knowledge is being shared, if there are some collaborations which can be formed, I think both sides can really benefit.
Interesting. And a few more questions to go. So what brings you to Nigeria?
But I think it's important for Belgian entrepreneurs to not only look to the US and China, but also to understand that there is a whole vibrant and interesting and knowledgeable and very innovative tech scene here in Africa, and more specifically in Nigeria. And so I think bringing people from Belgium in contact with that ecosystem, with that space, is important, because I already talked to some of the participants here also, and they all acknowledge that often they are surprised. Often they are surprised about the skill level of people, what kind of ecosystem, what kind of technology is available. And so I hope that in the future we can build partnerships out of that.
What kind of partnerships do you envision between Nigeria and Belgium in the startups in the tech ecosystem?
I think there are different things. Some of the products and services which are developed here are perfectly scalable into the European market.
Really?
On the other side, at the European level or in Belgium, we have some expertise which we can still also connect to some of the companies here. Right? For example, if you look at agriculture, we have a highly developed agricultural research scene, a lot of startups also around that, a lot of innovation. So I listened yesterday to a couple of pitches where they say, okay, we often insource the technology. That's things where we can be helpful. So I see many possibilities for good partnerships. Also on the financial side, funding companies, startup companies, doing the larger rounds, not only the 5,000 but also the 500,000 or the 5 million is something where I think European financial institutions are very well equipped to, but they have to know what is going on. So that's also the reason why it's so important to have these kind of missions, to let people have a taste for themselves of what is going on and see firsthand what exactly what good things are being done here.
Two more questions to go. As someone in the tech space, what's your view on artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and how do you think Africans, and in particular in this case Nigerians, can maximize the fourth industrial revolution?
I think AI will fundamentally transform industry and society. We have just recently launched a Belgian artificial intelligence strategy, bundling all the research capabilities. There were some private investors putting up 100 million euros in a specifically dedicated fund. We are trying to bring together also all the expertise that is in Belgium to see how AI can be implemented in different key sectors in Belgium. And I think that exercise needs to be done also here in Africa and Nigeria. For me, one of the things that is crucial in AI is, of course, that you have good data sets, and I think the data gathering aspect is something that you need to put a lot of effort in. It takes a lot of time, so that needs to be developed, and this is something where the government can also play a role. On the other hand, AI and everything that has to do with blockchain and other developments, it also allows to cut out the middleman and to find solutions directly peer-to-peer, person-to-person, company-to-company, which also eliminates the need sometimes for a government, and so also that can be helpful to make sure that it goes much faster, it's much more flexible, so it will have a big impact. Last point, I think that AI can also be used with everything that has to do with transparency and making sure that things are happening in a very transparent way. And if the data is available, people can start making their own decisions, and I think that's only a good thing.
One final question: what is the title of the book you're currently reading, or what tech book would you recommend for anyone?
There's a very nice book that is called Getting to Why. It's really defining the problem and also making sure that you can explain to a general audience what your product or service is about. And this exercise every company, every entrepreneur should do.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.